Never seen after that as cats.
Okay,
All right, ready?
let's go, Tyler.
Welcome, everybody. This is our May, right?
Yes, we are.
Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting for the City of Lakefront Park. Kick us off. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm Tyler. I'm the advisory board chair, I suppose. Maybe some quick just introductions as we go around the room, and we'll kind of get into it. You want to?
I'm Laura James with ShoreLake Arts.
Hi, I'm Amy Hannigan, Parks Board member.
Linda Holman, Parks Board member.
Lori Matson, City of Lake Forest Park.
Matt Mullenberg, City Council.
Mike Fettersnick, Park Board member.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm Mack Douglas, Public Works Superintendent.
Nova Heaton, Public Works Director.
Great, here we all are. So the first step for us, as with most of our meetings, we need to review the agenda that Corey has printed up for us, and then get to work on reviewing and approving the minutes from last time. So how about we do the agenda first? So please take a look, and if you have any questions or comments, or if this agenda looks good. So we can get a motion in a second and approve it.
Make a motion to accept the agenda as is.
Great. All right.
Second.
Great. All in favor, please indicate so. All right. All right. How about the next thing on the list is the meeting minutes, which Corey has kindly attached. Please take a look. Any questions or comments or? We need to move forward with a motion and a second to approve. If that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
All right.
Motion where you
Thank you so much.
I second.
All right. All in favor of the.
Just do this.
Yeah,
That's all. That's
for
fine.
the minutes from last time. It's say yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Oh, yeah.
Any votes? Great. Okay, now we can get into the good stuff. I think the first thing on our list is Laura.
Awesome.
I believe. Going here, hopefully this will still be a shared view. No. Yes. Yeah. All right, so I'm Laura James, the Executive Director of ShoreLake Arts. I am here today to just share what the year in LFP looks like for our events. I present to council every year, but that meeting will be in August when everything's starting to wrap up. So I asked Corey, is there an opportunity to talk and meet with you all and just share what we're thinking? And then if there are any suggestions or questions, I can answer them on the front end. And I know we're in a time crunch, so I will speak.
Speak quickly. That's what I teach.
So we are a 37-year-old organization. A lot of folks know us as the Shoreline Lake Forest Park Arts Council, which is a mouthful, but it is still our official name, but we go by ShoreLake Arts as well. We used to have a gift shop, a gallery here in Town Center. That has closed. We are reopening the gallery in the Ridgecrest neighborhood in our new location, which I've got a quick slide on. But we have a new president this year, Charlie Kapp. Tracy Furutani, deputy mayor, was our president, so it's good timing that he was able to hand the torch over. 2025 and into 2026, we were able to do some cool new things. We were able to put on a military veterans art show. There is an organization that approached us for a collaboration, which is often how we like to work, which is stronger together. If there's somebody else with an idea or another organization with a like idea, let's see how we can do this together. I love this photo on the left here because the artist it's from left to right, it's the artist's son, the artist, and then the two people that bought his artwork. And there's actually, that's a 4-panel. So the whole art show was the artists part of this group are working through their PTSD or their sexual trauma while in the military. So everybody, it was very, very personal art. This artist had done these huge panels in college and has been toting them around and showing them and trying to sell them. And then there was another one out of frame. And then this lovely couple came in and bought them all. Oh. And so it was just a wonderful, wonderful,
That's great.
moment to witness that. We've also started doing art classes at the senior center. For anybody who doesn't know, a senior starts at the age 50 for the senior center. So, yeah. Get your cards. Which is pretty cool. And then we also are starting to do art in businesses and doing shows and supporting local artists that way. So Ridgecrest Public House, we did a short stint at Salt and Iron, helping to fill in for an artist that wasn't able to make it. And hopefully we'll get more and more of this to beautify the walls and help artists get their work seen and hopefully sold. Okay, what's our space over in Ridgecrest? This is not what it looks like today. This is not what it looked like when we started. There have been many transformations. Thanks to a For Culture grant, we were able to remove the drop ceiling. So you're now seeing this mid renovation before the ceiling goes in. The back room is just awful. It is amazing. We double walled so that we soundproof. We have a massage studio next to us, so we can be good neighbors. And this used to be a police station outpost, which is why there's that random wall and 2 doors. So I guess they had intake, outtake, and they had to have a wall to separate it. But in this space, I call it our business mullet. We're going to have our gallery and gift shop in the front. We have 2 desks. There are 2 of us at ShoreLake Arts now. Our 2 desks are in the middle, and then that back room is a classroom space where we'll actually be able to hold a classroom where we work as well. First time ever. So I invite you all to stop by. We're definitely there Tuesday through Thursday right now. And then once the gallery is up and running, we'll be there on weekends as well. We are about to start an artist all call to fill the gallery in. And we're looking to do a membership model so that artists can take more, if not all, of the profits. So what does it look like? Lake Forest Park, we do over 40 events throughout the year. We kicked it off with our Edible Books Festival up at Third Place Commons. We had almost 4 people, or just over 400 people attend, and over 20 submissions. It's just going to get bigger and bigger.
So amazing.
It is
It blows my mind.
incredible. It is
Yeah.
incredible what people come up with. And the whole premise is, these are edible goods. You don't have to be 21 or over to have them, but
Those
they're,
animals.
that's what I was like, how progressive are we? But it is, they could be made out of vegetables, but they're mostly baked goods that are either a pun of a book or, a moment in that book. So now we're getting started into the summer months, and we are starting, I think ShoreLake Arts did a teen concert, or they tried it a few years ago before pre-COVID. And so we're going to try to bring it back this time with a co-host of Musicology in Edmonds. The owner, Rachel Gardner, was one of our judges for Battle of the Bands, which is how we made the connection. And she came to me and said, hey, I've got teens and they can't go anywhere to play because they're all bars. Anybody with a stage or sound system. Yeah, you have to be 21 and over. And I said, okay, well, this is a chocolate and peanut butter moment. Like you've got the people. I'm pretty sure I could get a part. And so reached out to Corey, and sure enough. So we are doing our first annual Listen Here concert where 4 bands I think will be selected. We'll see what we get. And then there are a few requirements, but all band members must be under 21 at the time of the concert. So that's the main one. But it's free to submit, free to attend. All thanks to grants and support from Lake Forest Park. Then we're going to have Shakespeare again for youth and teens, August 8th, and then Battle of the Bands will be back August 22nd. We're going to make sure that we get food trucks, or at least try to get food trucks at each of these events so that it covers more of parents and teens' needs when they come to these things. And then we'll do Picnic in the Park, Pause in the Park, where we do hands-on art. You know, somebody else is throwing the party, and then we just come with the art for people to do. I am also the president of the Shoreline Sister City Association, and why this impacts LFP is because of the school district. We're building a mobile Ghanaian, so the Shoreline Sister City is Upper Pangana. And we have since received donated items like the ones in the photograph from folks that had lived in Ghana all the way back to 57, which is when they gained their independence, all the way through modern. We're going to build a mobile museum that we take from school to school. We've already started talking to the school superintendent and her team on the best approach. So this will go live at the start of the next school year. And we want to incorporate this with music, food. So JHP will also be in the mix. So ShoreLake Arts, JHP to support this effort with Shoreline Sister City. And I think that was it for my presentation. I'll go back to our calendar.
Yeah, thank you. Can you talk to me a little bit more about, maybe just because I've been wanting this for a while, is the Shakespeare in the Park thing?
Yeah.
That stuff.
We do, so there's a long-standing tradition of Shakespeare in the Park for adults over in Richmond Beach Community Park, so that will still happen. This is geared towards, because when I visited this group 2 years ago, I heard, how do we get families together? How do we, have more things? And it just so happened that there's a Shakespeare group called Last Leaf that's local, and they tailor their Shakespeare story to a younger audience.
So the performers are adults?
Yes, the performers are adults, but they break it down.
Nice.
They try to make it a little bit more accessible. It still kind of flew over some kids' heads, so we're gonna, hopefully they can do a preamble where they introduce characters, kind of give the backstory before the event, and hopefully that'll help everybody follow along. This Arts in the Park came about when we weren't able to do Battle of the Bands, because Battle of the Bands at that time was one of our most expensive events, and we were about to shut our doors. And so being in those financial dire straits, we wanted to continue doing stuff. And so hence Arts in the Park, which is where we had, Double Dutch Divas come out. And I forget who else came, but it was really geared towards kids. So we might bring more of that, but definitely Shakespeare is signed on for August 8th.
Good stuff. Any other questions or comments?
The artwork for Listen Here was done by a Shorewood student, and we are partnering with Shore Crest. We're going to be a judge for their art competition, but hopefully through these connections, we'll be able to do more and more, and this will be a way for teens to get their start with art professionally, because we'll write them a fat check. for their work as well. So I guess, my question to you is, the ShoreLake Arts, I see our mission is filling the gap. So our whole mission is to keep art accessible, to strengthen our community through the arts. We have our beloved events that we do every year. However, we keep adding every year to fill a gap, or there might be a new cool idea that we test out. So my question to this group is, when you think about trying to bring families together to activate those parks and enjoy the parks, we've tried to hit every age group with, these few events. But if there is anything else that you feel could enhance that experience more, I'm all ears.
I'd really like to see something with classical music. It's just, my son is a professional cellist. He grew up in the Shoreline school system.
Yeah.
He plays with the Milwaukee Symphony. His wife is a professional harpist. I mean, kids start here.
See a
They
show right
did.
there.
Great.
Absolutely do.
And we have a huge number of kids
Yes.
that participate there. When I think it's the same, there were about 500 kids in the Shoreline, school in the lower grades that were so we need to do something, I think, with classical music.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what, but there are all kinds of things we could do rather than just battle of the bands and teen bands. And that's like, okay, great, but
It's an interesting one that my son's in the orchestra at Shore Plus. And
Very
they're looking at some fundraisers right now.
Yeah.
So that might be, I don't know how that fits in with all this, but they're doing, what are they calling it? A soiree, I guess, where they're just gonna play at the commons at school and invite people to bring their picnics, like hang out. Like, wow.
Well, let's grab this showmobile and.
that's awesome.
So it's kind of high.
I just love it.
$20 a person or something, you're supposed to
Yeah.
help fund their trip to New York.
Yeah.
But there's that group also.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not heard them play, but I've heard amazing things about the jazz bands.
Oh, yeah, jazz band
Yes.
is great.
Just an opportunity for them to play
I
somewhere. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm helping with Shore Lights this year, which is, there's a town center park right next to City Hall. There's this strip of grass. And last year was the first year for Shore Lights. This year, we hope to have a stage, and we're thinking Friday evenings would be youth nights, and that's when we can ask some of these school, bands or musicians and clubs if they want to come and perform. Just for the community, a way to bring everybody together. So that's one thing that we're thinking of, to bring the youth musicians together. I also reached out to a friend who's in a chamber orchestra to see how we might, because my parents are classical musicians. Like, I grew up listening to classical, which is why I'm doing all the rock concerts now. But anyway, that is missing from our portfolio. There are a few others, but yeah, so I was just talking about, we should maybe do some
So-
kind of symphony in the park.
I mean, there's, you can reach out, there's there's Cascade Youth Symphony, there's the Seattle Youth Symphony. I mean, there's so many,
Yeah,
and we could cull from them.
Mhm.
I mean, there are tons of kids in Shoreline who are in these.
so you're
orchestra.
thinking as youth orchestra concert versus
Or a chamber,
grown-ups?
just, kids, they have to have time to practice and stuff, so it would be, maybe there's a group already at Shorecrest that's, doing some kind of chamber work. I don't know,
Yeah,
way far away from that now, so.
So my goal for next year is to start an actual concert in the park series.
Nice.
And so
There you
maybe
go.
we could do like one night is symphony night, one night's jazz night,
Yeah.
Do it.
Great idea,
Yeah.
so talk about that, that's a great
Get the
idea.
marching band going. Actually.
There's a bunch of bagpipes around. I can hear it.
oh my gosh,
Out in the morning.
bagpipes for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, so we
should
park
connect.
board
Little
can think
musical
of
excitement.
like
Yeah,
theme
Yeah.
nights.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds like we got some great ideas to share with you. Thank you,
Perfect.
Laura, for
Yeah,
your
if you think of
input
anything
here.
else. Rob, Corey knows how to reach me, but yeah, director at ShoreLake.
I know where you are now.
Yes, exactly.
See pictures.
So is it ShoreLake Arts
It's
.org .com what .org ShoreLake Arts.
ShoreLake Arts, plural.
Yeah.
.org.
Good.
And what is the address of your current building?
521 Northeast 165th Street. Yeah,
Thank you.
we refer to it as 521. And the other
the
office
crest?
is Heald,
That's by the Crest Theater. That area.
kitty corner, yeah.
Mac, did you have something? No, oh, okay. I thought I saw you like raise a hand or something.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Public Works. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're free to take out if you want to go. That is you. Yeah, so we have new public works director and new superintendent. I just figured bring them to come say hi to you all. They could do a little introduction of themselves and just kind of chat about the year kind of going forward.
Okay, I'll start. I'm Heaton, the new Public Works Director. I'm excited to be here at Lake Forest Park now. I previously was at City of Snohomish and City of Arlington and Snohomish County, all prior to my stint here now at Lake Forest Park. I'm extremely committed to long-term planning, also connecting people with the places they're trying to go in more ways than just by car, multimodal connections and things like that. I started in late February, so I've only been here a couple months, but currently working really actively, specifically on the transportation improvement plan, which will include multimodal connections. And one of the things that we're looking at is the connections to the parks and making sure people can walk and bike and get to our parks safely. That is taking up a lot of my time right now, and I have a stormwater NPDES thing that it's very high on my priority list, but Corey and I were just talking after that. We'll be starting to look at the parks and the program for the parks and making sure that we are, making a really good effort to lay out the maintenance needs for each park for each year so that it's more overall it's getting into the budget, it's getting looked at. We can kind of identify where we have gaps. We can also identify, where the community is actually picking up the slack, because there's quite a bit of that in Lake Forest Park, which is lovely. But, we need to think about that anytime we are considering building a new park or anything like that. So trying to make sure those maintenance costs and upkeep are really at the forefront and thought about at the forefront. So when we put in a new park, that has costs and that has a lot of associated impacts that we need to make sure we're thinking about. So then also master planning of some of the parks that aren't master planned yet. So any old plans, kind of brushing those off, looking at them, making sure they still meet our needs, updating them as necessary. And then there's quite a few parks that, are kind of in sort of just waiting. And man, Corey and I visited one today, the one that's affectionately called Big Trees, I think, but it has a different name. We visited that today, and I mean, just what a stunning place, right? Those rhododendrons were all in bloom, and they're just huge trees. They're just gorgeous. So that was what's that? Brookside, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Technically the name is Brookside Park, but people call it Big Tree Park. Yeah.
Brookside, wait a minute, so.
I know, but and animal liquors.
Animal liquors.
Just need a bridge.
That's not Eagle, not.
Well, that's what we talked about today.
No, Eagles Trail is across Route 78.
One of the parks that we might need to look at
Just
renaming.
Go over that little bridge, it's directly across from Brookside Elementary.
Oh, okay.
It was part of the Finks property.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
So just like that. And, working with the group to come up with, what's the best use for different parks? What are, what park is going to be like, we kind of have garden park where do the little kids play? Where do we have sports fields? Where do we have the pickleball? Just all those different things, right? Making sure we're hitting all the different needs of our community and really prioritizing based on those needs. I am going to let Mack talk about some of the work we've been doing since I got here, but effort that started before I got here. But we've definitely been really trying to up our customer service in our parks. So I would love for Mack to talk about some of those things.
Great, thank you. Yeah, really, really excited to be here. Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but it's there's a lot of familiar faces in the room, so nice to see some of you again, and nice to meet some of you as well. Yeah, so Nova mentioned a lot of the long-term planning stuff, and where I come in is more of some of the day-to-day stuff. So working with our crew to outline, daily and weekly priorities, get into a rhythm, make sure we're upkeeping all the maintenance. And then personally, I come from a background of parks and recreation. So parks and open spaces are a passion of mine. And we're really excited to be working with people like Linda and with the Master Gardeners Association to accomplish some of the beautification projects in the park and some of the more practical things like community gardens. That's just been wonderful. It's really a part of the job I really enjoy. And we're looking at, some overall improvements to some of the parks and updating some of the fields and stuff like that. So we're just in the very early stages of identifying what it is we want to do, but we're going to be putting together a plan, and I'm really looking forward to beginning to execute some of those projects with the crew. So really excited about that. And then otherwise, just we're working on establishing as many standard operating procedures as we can, and just making sure we're being as efficient as possible with the resources that we have. Some of you may know we're a smaller crew, so it's really important for us to kind of remain organized and really keep track of all the work we're doing. So that's been a big project I've undertaken since getting here is kind of trying to figure out and working with Nova to try and figure out how it is we want to track that work and how we want to kind of tell the story and really advocate for the Public Works Department and for the parks in the city and for all of those like amazing public amenities that Lake Forest Park has. So I'm really excited to be here. It's been so great so far. It's been great having Nova on board, and really looking forward to working with all of you more in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Any questions from the
I have a question.
board? Yeah, please.
I know that the maintenance of the parks is gonna take people. Do you think your budget is gonna be able to afford adding more maintenance people to take care of these parks?
That's a great question. I think that we absolutely need more people to take care of the parks. And my goal is to show the council that, to really work on those long-term plans, work on those maintenance requirements, help the community understand what it takes to maintain the parks in the manner they want them maintained, right? Because there's obviously a level of that where a park kind of starts to fall into a bit of discare, and we don't want that. But if we don't have the people, we can't do it. So that's where Mack and I are really trying to work together, work with Corey to come up with these long-term plans to help people understand what it really takes to get a park going. Or whether or not we can actually afford that, it is a tough question. And I think that we're going to be looking at some serious budget concerns, and we're going to need the community's help to try to find ways to meet those needs.
I think the community would be ready and willing to help as volunteers. I think if it's coordinated properly, there are a lot of people that show up for volunteering at the parks that I work at. So I know those same people and others would probably help you guys out if you could not hire people.
That's great. And definitely that's been shown, by the effort I've seen since I've been here. The community really cares about their parks and they're really interested in maintaining and doing the work, which is lovely.
I got a question.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so what are your expectations for how the Parks Board can interface most confidently with you? What can we do to help you implement your plans, your ideas? I mean, it seems like we should be somewhat working together as the Parks Board, and we should know what your expectations, if you have them, of how we can help you.
Great question. Yeah, I would work through your meetings. Obviously, I'll always, like I said, I really haven't gotten started on any of the actual planning portion. Mostly, we've been working on the maintenance type and time aspects of the park so far. But as we get into that planning, I will be probably coming in and presenting to you guys, getting your feedback and input. But I would also just say, and this is true, I've talked to the council about this, I've talked to the biking community, I've talked to the master gardeners, anything like that. Just email me, shoot me a message if you think of something. They're not my plans, right? I'm just the one that has to draw them up. They're really the community's plans for the parks. And so I want to take in the wants and needs of the community and then try to filter through to find the best path forward. Because sometimes I like to describe my job as a balancing act because there's always competing needs for everything we do. So I try to take in as much information as I can and then prioritize and hit the high notes. So it's really going to be about communicating. You guys will always see the things coming to you for review, for input. I don't have any interest in doing things in a silo. Plus, the community has shown how much work they're willing to do. So if I can utilize you, I will utilize you because I have a very small crew. So just speak up, bring me your ideas, and we'll keep in really good communication.
Yeah, Nova, I sent you an email about the pickleball court 2 days ago, I think I sent you.
It was on Tuesday, and I replied before I left today, actually.
Oh, good. I haven't seen.
Yeah, no, I have great news to report. We've been working on that, and I gave Mack the okay to order the windscreens, and then we're still working on the benches because because we're the city, we have to do 3 quotes for everything in order for things to be up to snuff. And then not only do we have to have 3 quotes, but we have to save all the quotes and put everything takes longer than it should. That's just the way it works for us. But we're working on it actively right now. So things are moving along and we're pretty excited about that. We've got several other little things here and there. We got a request to improve the horseshoe pits at what's that? That was at Horizon View?
Horizon View.
Yeah, and so we've got that on our list of things to do probably in the next 2 weeks. And then I know I'm forgetting something. Oh, the fence at Animal Acres. We are working on getting that contract moving through so we can get that replaced. What else am I forgetting, Mac?
Paving up at Horizon View, the pathway.
Oh, that's
that goes
right.
down.
Yeah. There was an active Pathways grant that Corey had for us, and so we are looking at replacing that cracked walkway with some better stuff. And then we're trying, as we do that, also to integrate some drainage improvements because as you go around the corner down there's a lot of water on the pathway, kind of almost all the year. And so we're trying to do a little bit better job of capturing that water before it goes across the pathway to keep it nice and clean for people. But also when water, goes across our asphalt, it's more likely to damage it in the bad weather. There's also slip and fall risks. And then the other thing we're trying to do is find the best way to protect the tree roots while we are paving. That interaction between trees and asphalt paths is always a problematic one. So we're looking for thoughtful ways in which we can protect those roots and then also protect the pathway. So,
Bill, could I step in here and say something? The things that we've been talking about, and Mac, I don't know how far this has gone yet, but I've been talking with Ian from Public Works. And Mac, I'm not sure if you were in on the conversation too, that we're looking to get the black locust removed from Blue Heron. In fact, we were over there yesterday and they are going further than we initially thought. And now that it's spring and the sprouts are starting up with very long, very painful needles, we want to do something there to protect that. Because if you walk by there, you're not even aware that this has happened, that this is there, and it could be really a problem. So we're really hoping to get that on the schedule too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been talking with our city arborist, Christy. She also just started. So she's kind of, and I think you met her out there that
Yes,
day.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So we're just figuring out what the permitting process is going to be for all of those trees because there's a good handful of them. I'm just trying to determine some probably don't require a permit. I'll circle back with her on that tomorrow and see if she has any additional information, but definitely on my radar. I was actually looking at them the other day, so we'll get that going as soon as possible.
Corey and I just talked about those actually this morning as well. So I think we'll be Corey and I'll look to try to find the funding to get a contractor out there to do the work. So
Black locusts, man.
Well, now that it's spring and the little ones are shooting up, you can't really identify them, and if people are walking by there, it's so easy to get hurt. Because we're just over there like 2 days ago going through there, and it's wow, so it's concerning that it's something soon, hopefully.
Well, very good. Thank you for all that information. It was really great to hear from you both. Hear for your ideas coming into the city and all of our problems to be solved. So thank you for your help with that.
Thank
that's what I'm here for. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is our business section. 2026 community events.
Yes. Mac, you're more than welcome to stay or hop off.
I'll turn my camera off, but I'm just gonna listen in,
Perfect.
soak it all in.
Yeah.
Animal Acres looks beautiful today, Mac. You guys did a great job cleaning that park up, back park.
Awesome. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Matt on our crew was out there mowing today, and then Ian and Michael did an incredible job fixing the irrigation in the garden over there. So that's up and running now too. So really happy about that. Thank you.
Did they get the fountain fixed too?
Sorry, what was that?
I wondered if they got the drinking fountain fixed also in that park.
I believe the drinking fountain with the most recent irrigation repair is fixed, I believe. Yes.
Fun issues. Okay, so gonna pull, this will be going out soon. This is gonna be the poster for the year. It'll be in color. We're waiting on a couple details, but that will be the one going out into public. We'll get them printed. And once I have copies, if you guys wanna grab some, spread around, we'll do that. But we have Pack the Park this weekend. You guys are around, come say hi. We'll walk it, we'll run it, or just cheer.
I hear there's a big need for cheerleaders.
Yeah, I'll be there first cheering.
We're working.
Oh, yeah, and
I'm working.
Good.
so yeah, we have all the events at the ShoreLake Arch just went over, and then we'll do picnic in the park again September 12th. And then we'll do the LFP Yard Day the following Saturday, which would be September 19th. And then we're gonna bring back Pause in the Park October 3rd this year. So Josh couldn't make it tonight, but we met yesterday, we're getting some fun ideas going for Plaza in the Park. Potentially asking people to bring adoptable dogs, maybe. See if we can get someone to do that. It's a good, so if you guys have any thoughts or ideas, additions for Pack the Park, or Matt had a food truck he listed yesterday. You guys have some food truck ideas to invite to some of these events, let me know. So I'm gonna start getting food trucks and book bands and stuff like that. So if you guys have anyone you want me to specifically look at. Any questions on the events or anything?
So sorry, was the June 27th one, that's the team battle of the bands, got it,
Yeah.
okay. Sure,
Let's see
match
here.
those things up. And the showmobile, that's the
That's the,
truck stage,
yeah,
that is cool. Just pretty neat.
yeah, I forget people don't know what a showmobile is.
I think you're just saying something.
Yeah, we made it up. Yeah, so one of our goals too this year is to get the showmobile spiffed up a little bit, potentially rent it out to some of our neighboring cities. There's some interest because only, as far as I know, only us, Bainbridge and Monroe have a showmobile.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we look at just cost recovery, public works staff time, and showmobile upkeep. For the future, so the community partners we're willing to work with.
Do we send staff out so that they kind of,
We'll have to figure that out. That's gonna be the talk this year. Be potentially a good seasonal job to send someone out there for the balance. We will open and close it Friday. Yeah.
cool, it's good.
Yeah.
All right, so now you have the calendar, mark your own calendars, yeah.
Yeah.
All
And
the
next
good
year's
stuff.
goal is Conquer the Park series.
So lovely idea, Cory, I really
Yeah.
love that, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't get anything from, no. I checked everything, I did not get it, even. At least, I don't have it in spam or anywhere, so I'll have to text it. Okay.
And I've not made any movement on yoga in the park yet, but we'll see. We have to do like a special series.
What is the? What is the hold up point on that one? Is it the insurance for the instructor? Is that usually
Yeah.
what kind of? Yeah, sort of is the big hump that we can't get over.
And just figuring out how an easier way for people to sign liability waivers, and collecting those. The big thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem, I mean, I think that was annoying when we were doing it. It seemed to be a deal breaker
No,
though,
people are
right?
pretty
They'll
good.
sign a form,
Yeah.
sign it every time they go.
Yeah.
Why do they have to sign it every time?
No, they
No.
didn't sign it every time,
No,
just
no.
once,
So they could,
just once,
Yeah.
yeah. If you came more than once, then you.
Right, and if you
It was
already
there.
had
It's,
one going, like if you worked in a park or something, you didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, there were a few people who were a little. Yeah, dissy about it, but.
Good for you. You gotta
Generally,
sign a
everybody.
form. It's not that hard.
I remember, I was there with Lori, it was great.
Yeah.
And is there gonna be rotating instructors or how's it?
Well, we'll just,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the big question, is
Yeah.
who can do it? But
Yeah.
based on the city's requirement for insurance.
Yeah. So I'll see if I have time in the next couple weeks to maybe get a smaller yoga park, do a pop-up, something. So, yeah.
Any questions about the calendar? things coming up. All right, thanks for that, Corey. Next on the agenda, is the Adventure Lab geocaching. You want to talk us through
I
that?
printed, yeah. Or your emails and printed for everyone.
Oh, very nice, well done.
Great. I'm gonna let you take this.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be an enabler here, because for the past 2 years, I've heard the Parks Board talk about doing geocaches in our parks or adventure lab in our park. And
Yeah.
I had some free time last weekend and started to pound away on, well, what would that look like? And you know, AI is pretty powerful thing these days. So I prepped a packet that I sent to Tyler and to Corey that is, you know, a proposed starting point. And then basically what I did is I picked 5 of our parks and worked with the AI to define a focal point in each park and then to collect all of the publicly available information we have about all the things that are in the park. So I put together a packet that says, well, in Animal Acres, there's statue and there's the viewing station and there's the Otter Garden and there's the experimental garden. So I picked the Otter Garden and said, let's build around the Otter Garden. So I think it's meant just to be a starting point to make it easy. I went through all of our parks. I missed one in this list that I sent to you. I realize, Corey, but I went into the geocaching app and looked, and we're the only city at this end of Seattle that doesn't have a geocache, or I'm sorry, doesn't have any adventure labs. Montlake Terrace clearly has invested in it. They've got 4 of them around their city that take you into certain parts of town. One of them's a history walk, the others are park walks. Kenmore's got several, Bothel's got several, Shoreline has several. Hamlin Park is the closest one to us. So it felt like the void. There's one letterbox in the city. There's one multi-cache that is inside Acacia Cemetery, which is in the city. And then there are 16 other traditional caches that are hidden around, mostly in our parks, but I worry a little bit about the liability. We don't have the liability because we don't have anything to do with them, but there's 4 of them along Perkins Way as you're walking up it, just off on the side of the road. The Brookside Park has 1 letterbox, Animal Acres has 1 standard cache, Perkins has 4, Grace Cole has 2. The cemetery, there's 3 along Burke Trail that you can access in the city. Blue Heron has 1, 5 Acre Wood has 1, Horizon View has 3, and the Pipeline has 1. There's a couple of them that might not actually be in Lake Forest Park. The one on the pipeline, I couldn't tell is that on the Kenmore side of the pipeline, but the Lake Forest Park side of the pipeline. And same with one of the 2 that are in Grace Cole. The ones in Grace Cole seem problematic to me because they are. One of them takes you down a dead end street and through people's yards to get to it. Or you have to come through the sand dunes, which are the closed off portion of Grace Cole to get to it. So I think there's probably been a lot of foot traffic that's coming through areas up there that we don't want because of the placement of it. We can work with geocaching because there are public parks. They can prohibit people from putting things in our parks. I don't think we want to do that. But we could ask to, you know, maybe we could have these 2 pulled so that we can put something in the park that's more appropriate for the use of the park.
So how does that? Sorry.
What is a letterbox? I'm like very new to this.
Yeah.
And
I
I looked at the website and the website's, there's nothing. So I have to download the app.
You have to download an app. This is the Adventure Lab app.
Okay.
So you can pass my phone around if you want. Each one of those, and you can pick a flag and pop into one if you want. But each of those is an Adventure Lab. Adventure Labs are basically I've done all kinds of them. I do them everywhere I travel. One of my favorite ones around here is down in White Center. It takes you to 5 little eating establishments where you can get street food. So over the course of a 2-hour walk, you get to visit these little businesses. You get a little sample of the food, and the payout is you have to answer a question at each one of the stops. So to unlock the second stop, you have to answer the question at the first stop. Answer the third stop, you got to answer the question at the second. So it forces you to learn a little bit in that same moment. So that's what I think is exciting about it for our parks. So that's one format. Geocaching is how to describe it.
So a letterbox would be like a physical.
They're all physical. The Adventure Labs are not physical, but on the rest of what here is physical. A letterbox predates geocaching. It's a wayfinding activity. I actually went and found the one in Brookside Park yesterday. And it's in that barbecue, it's attached with metals, you gotta get down on your knees, you gotta reach up to that big part. That thing's a risk, that I'm concerned about it. But it was. I don't know, so we should go find it. Yeah, we can look on Saturday. And then geocaches are physical boxes and they range from tiny little pill boxes to. I mean, I found one once that was a 55-gallon barrel that was hidden up off of a trail, the castings. And
What is,
there's a logbook inside that you sign. I found it, thanks for hiding it, but it's really oriented. It started as an orientation for kids, so the boxes typically are filled with little toys and gizmos and things like that, so the.
It's like take one, leave one.
Take one, leave one, yep. Take a Matchbox car, leave whatever. So there's one up in Hamlin that takes you around the perimeter of the park on the trails, so it's a way to get you to walk the trails.
And that's the Adventure Lab.
That's an
Adventure
adventure lab.
Labs do the app. It's like that. It is still instruction based, like find a place on the map and go to it.
Yeah, let me pull one
But
up.
then
that
it's
I
like got a
completed.
little bit more to it, right? It seems like it's questions and clues and observe
okay.
your surroundings and then get the more information for the next one. It's kind of
So
neat.
you can see here, this one is a history walk in Kenmore, and
Okay, sure.
it's got 7 stops on it in a very short area, so it's easy to walk it. And at each stop, you get a little context about that
Nice.
location, so it tells you some details about the location.
Okay.
Yeah. See how it shows you some details?
Yeah.
Per stop, you learn some
Cool.
details about it, and then there's a question at the end that you have to answer.
Right,
And then when you answer the question, it gives you a payout page where you can then
No.
tell more, so a history of the park, or now that you've seen the Otter Garden, maybe you wanna go see the statue and the viewing location.
This is all new to me.
Maybe.
We've done a lot of this with our kids.
Interesting.
Is there special materials they need or is it just really just phone based?
Just cell phone based, yeah.
Cause you can get the,
Yeah.
all the,
I mean, when we started doing it, we bought a
Yeah, right.
Garmin GPS unit and all of that, and then the phones came out, and they replaced all our equipment. It's all there. And then, geocaching is a separate app. I filtered to I created a list, so these are all of the ones that are in Lake Forest Park. You can pass that around again to see. So a multi-cache is just another version of a geocache, except it has multiple stops with clues. So you have to solve a puzzle at each one of the stops and collect a little piece of information so that you can assemble the coordinates to find where the box is hidden.
And has this been like publicized? Do people in LFP even know this is?
So they have millions of people who play this game.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not one of them, honest.
You listen out, apparently.
We've literally done all of it. We're all 3 countries.
That's great.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
They get it.
we're good.
All right.
Okay.
yeah, that's something, that's, thank you for bringing that up. 'Cause I
Yeah.
think I've been vaguely aware of it, but I don't know how that stuff works.
Yeah.
Never gonna do it. So, and then the kind of the existing ones, I think are really interesting to know that there are some out there.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it's lawyer, it's super interesting to know that there are some where we don't want them to be. Like, what do we do about that? Like,
We don't have liability for them. That's the nice thing, right?
Okay.
Whoever hid them has
Okay.
liability for that cache, and they
Okay.
agree to a bunch of rules when they sign up
Okay.
to be part of the program.
Okay.
So,
Good to know, thank you.
yeah,
So like these are some of the Mountain Terrace, Kenmore ones, are those city?
some of them are,
Created?
some of
Yeah,
them are
that's-
created by the
that's
city.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's part of an economic development program, right? Like the one I started with, I said, well, let's start them at City Hall and they could see the 9/11 memorial that we have right there. I don't know why we don't call that a park actually, right in front of City Hall. That should be City Hall Park, because we have all kinds of
I
monuments.
should put a little fence around it and have it be a dog park for birds.
Oh, that'd be great too. Yeah, you could start somebody there and you could have them find the memorial, and then you could say, don't forget to stop and get a coffee at one of the 4 great coffee shops in the Lake Forest Park Town Center as you're walking over to Blue Heron Park to find the next one. So that's how cities use it, that the food walking tours, it's often about, the local business association trying to promote some of the businesses in town.
Publicize them.
Yeah,
People would be interested in it. Nobody I know is even aware of it.
Right. So Corey, I don't know if you want to share that whole packet I put together. It's,
I didn't get
I
a
was
copy.
I was using it as an opportunity to play with AI.
Yeah, you're having fun.
About your email.
And attached to the first email, it'd be a multi-page PDF.
I was
Right,
sick.
I sent you a packet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. If not, I'll send this to you, and maybe it got filtered out.
Or this is when I was week sick.
Yeah, you were pizza.
My brain was not working.
Yeah, because you could flash it up on the screen, you could do that with file.
Oh, look at you. You did.
You know,
I totally missed this. So, that it's no my knowledge.
okay.
Yeah, this.
Part of it was fun, using the AI to do it because I said, go collect factual information from public sources, and it went to the Shoreline Area News and
Wow.
History Link Washington and the Lake Forest Park website. Like, it covered all of these places. And it compiled, when you get it open, it could just compile for each park a summary of things that I thought start to answer these 4 questions that I laid out in the email that are at the top of Corey's notes here. We have enough parks to do 2 of them. Some of our parks are big enough, you could do one
Right, one
park if you wanted to. Housing could easily have its own. And again, because I used AI, it's great. There's no pride of authorship in any of it, because all I did is write prompts to say, you know, do these tasks and provide a report to me. So, right, change any words you want.
Yeah.
Change it to any parks you want. Again, it was just meant to be a thought starter, a conversation piece, because I know that I need to talk.
Do you have any thoughts about whether that's, one of your questions, is this a city run thing or not? What are how have you seen that done in other places?
I don't know I don't know any of the answers to it. Like, one of my questions to Corey last year about it was, does the city take on liability for anything if we hide these? Does that have implications for insurance and other stuff like that? I don't know the answer to that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll reach out to some of these other cities.
Yeah. I'll go through and find some that are sponsored by a city, and maybe it turns out they're sponsored by the parks or by the ShoreLake Arts Association
Yeah.
instead or something, right? So, you know, this is all AI, but this is the route I laid out. Started City Hall. I don't know why it didn't populate the map here. It left the map off on it. But City Hall, Blue Heron, Finks, Horizon View, and Grace Cole seemed like a nice arc to get people through. It's pretty spread out though, so this one would have to be done by a car.
Yeah.
A lot of them are walkable, so we can think about that too. We could make this smaller, and it could be here. It could be these 3 plus the preserve.
Okay.
As the 4th, then you only do
Yeah,
4.
little walkable.
Yeah, a little walk makes it walkable to do it,
Park at Starbucks.
right?
Or getting ice cream after.
So you can see it quoted all the sources it pulled from: the Lake Forest Park overview page, the Rex page, the thumbnail history page on History Link. And then it suggests, you know, you might want to talk about, if at this particular stop, talk about the incorporation of the city and why it's here in history, right? So, yeah, accessibility. This one, it said, we'll focus on the bridge, the footbridge. I think that is the right focal point down there, but maybe there's something else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Otter Garden was the recommended location here. Nature's Repose Bench, the new bench up at Horizon View, and then the boardwalk to see the Beaver Dam at Grace Cole. And again, other things in every one of those parks, but so, you know, what to notice: 450th anniversary history signage in the city area. Early years walking, residential park development, incorporation, the Veterans Memorial.
So it's like the info that's presented on the first stop. Is that kind of?
Yeah, so you show up and, you know, here we are at the birthplace of Lake Forest Park, a city that was formed to try to prevent a shopping mall from being built, like whatever, and then go to the plaque that talks about the 9/11 memorial and answer the question. Whatever, I don't know what fact is presented at that location, but they present the question. And then when they answer the question, you get a complete page, you did it. Well, confetti drops on your screen. And then that whole page is another page of text where you can say something next. So while you're here, don't forget to get coffee at the town center. Also see these 4 other things at this location or that type of stuff.
So do people get like points for doing?
I mean, yeah, they
Like-
give, they gamify it,
Yeah.
there's leaderboards, things like that. I don't do it for that reason, but there are certainly people that do it for that reason. And there's meetups and get-togethers that happen. I think Third Place Common would be an amazing place to sponsor geocachers meetup to try to draw people into the city. There's another type of geocache that's called a CITO. I don't know what the CITO stands for, but you pick a specific day for a geocaching event that had a couple of special caches that become prepared to help clean the park that day. So it becomes a park cleanup activity. We don't have, like, unlike Seattle, there's a bunch of parks filled with trash. We don't have a lot of parks filled with trash, so maybe we don't need a cleanup activity, but
Yeah, taking
there's
some
all
time
kinds of ways to
for
avoid it.
they're kind of disappointing. Like, oh, not a lot of trash in here.
Yeah,
Normally it's a good thing, but when they ever clean up,
yeah.
you get like 3 gum wrappers.
Cool.
Yeah, I think this has a lot of potential. And I like that it brings an existing platform to it, because we've talked about this for a long, versions of this. And I think like putting our own walk together or putting our own like stamp at a park kind of thing together, that's sort of self-contained. But having this
Bring
platform.
those 2 things
Oh,
together,
sure.
Tyler. Like
Yeah.
I looked at the Junior Rangers after you replied back to me.
Oh, I love the freaking Junior Rangers.
Yeah, it looks like an amazing program.
Yeah.
You could unite those 2 things. You could make a stop, and then as a result of that, oh, you need to go by City Hall, and they're going to give you a stamp passport or whatever. Right.
Well, I'm very interested in this. I think that's a lot of potential. I also, whenever I have a project that I think sounds good, but I'm not sure I have the time for it, I always think of these scouts that I work with.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, could they do something with this? So,
Maybe we can anchor Eagle Scout Park in, take Horizon View and Grace Cole out and do the preserve and just these 5 parks right here.
Yep.
Makes it walkable.
I wonder if like as one of the older scouts who's like knows more about like, can they help set that up? Be kind of a fun thing.
Well, and people who really get into it, like there are adventure labs that people love, and you can give hearts, and the hearts stack up. A lot of those have little games or puzzles that are built into them, so it's more than just a road activity of walk to this place, read a sign, and answer a question. Right, or you built something fun about it in each location. That's beyond me. I don't have that kind of creativity, but
You know how to use AI, man. That's great. Cool.
thank you.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good idea. I'm gonna look into it a little more, see if I can figure out anything to add to it. Maybe Cora, if you want to look into the idea of like, did the city kind of own this thing or have an account or whatever?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of nice. Put these things together.
And if we want to take a field trip as a parks board, it would be fun to go find a cache in one of our parks, or go to Hamlin and actually do the cache up there, or go to Kenmore, which is, doesn't, have to walk by as much.
Nice weather field trip, sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Be a fun way to do a meeting, or just get together outside.
Yeah. Fantastic. Any other thoughts or comments on that?
Oh, I think it's great.
Okay. Next on the list is the June Parks eNews.
Anyone do one?
I mean, I had AI write one about the Honor Guard.
That's
It
fantastic.
needs a little bit of editing, so it's not
You
entirely.
brought one?
I do it for me.
Why don't you send it to Linda?
Okay.
She'll edit
Who's
it.
in charge of the outer guard?
Yeah. Also, I know that. You can edit it, and you can send it to Cory.
Yeah,
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think articles are due
It's getting over that first draft hump that is often the hard part, so
Yeah,
yeah, ask an AI.
Yeah.
A bad start.
I'm blown away by AI. And I've worked in AI now for 10 years, last 6 months, transformation.
Yeah, it's been stunning.
Terrible.
I don't use.
One of the
AI.
words.
What's that?
I don't use it at all, besides Google.
Either.
I Google,
Yeah, well,
and I use the word. Email.
Or your emails for you.
But you can opt out when you're old enough. Oh, sorry. Add one more thing.
Well, you got a long ways to go.
Okay. Next on the list is the Lakefront Park updates, street picture reschedule.
Yeah, it was just, I have no updates. It was just.
Okay.
Res-
Placeholder.
yeah, reschedule. It was
Did
just
we ever
for
hear
the-
anything about the hearing?
I have a lot of information about the hearing and I have questions for Matt. So the hearing committee, do you want to
Here we
hear this? Okay.
Please, sure.
So the hearing commissioner approved some of it, but remanded 4 necessary permits. So we're still in, there's a lot that is not approved. And Matt, I assume that the council was apprised of all these,
Yeah.
what the hearing commissioner said. So what, can you kind of give us an update as to if you have it?
yeah, I can't remember what all 4 of the issues were. I know 3 of them. So one of them is the length of the dock that we want to build.
Right.
Which we believe is necessary. Bassett has indicated is necessary as a result of how shallow the lake is until you get to a certain point. So we need the long dock to be able to have a swimming pool.
Hit the floor.
Yeah, so that's one of them. So we just need to submit more information on that particular topic. I believe. I don't know the full process.
So these aren't like denied.
Nope,
They are
we're
like,
not denied.
We need more
Yes.
info.
And the SEPA
Well-
appeal was denied.
Yes.
No.
His.
The
appeal.
SEPA appeal was denied, but sent back to us for follow-up on these 4 topics, so we've got to do something about the dock. We have to do something about the apron we want to put around the house because that deck approaches a little too far towards the preserve. So they
Okay.
want a smaller footprint on the outside of the house. The big one is the parking.
Parking.
And it's not the parking per se, it's that our code doesn't have parking that addresses use for lakefront parks in residential neighborhoods. So we have to go back to our code and add some lines to the code that describes how you would have to have parking to comply in Lake Forest Park, parking in a park like this. That's a park lot there.
But there's an entire parking lot across the street.
However,
There is.
it's not an entire parking lot. That's where I was misled as well. It's not an entire park. The bank owns a
That's right.
portion,
Yeah,
right? And they're not gonna want us taking that. From what I've been understood, there are only 12 parking spots provided at City Hall.
That was our proposal.
That was your proposal, okay, so there's only 12 spots out there. Now, it's a small park, I don't know how many spots we really would need, but there's only 12, but the commissioner was not happy with the parking allotment that the design entails, from what I understand. Also, I think that the fudges, the people that own the neighbors are concerned about parking as well. Is that right, Matt?
yeah, I mean,
Kind
I
of.
think if you lived in that neighborhood, you would be concerned too. It's natural. It's a
They are-
narrow skinny street. It's not meant to have traffic on it.
It's not meant to have parking.
It's not meant to have parking.
Right,
No,
Yeah.
no parking.
So,
I mean, why?
I mean, there is a small lot there. I think it's got 4 spots on site.
Yeah, they'd be. This is what like we have to explain better to the hearing examiner is they would be ADA.
Yeah.
One of his things was he thought there was too many ADA stalls, so we have to like go back and show him why we need these ADA stalls. And then it would be. Load and unload or for the staff or for the rental of the cabin. So there would
So
no,
permit.
there would not be, permitted or load and load, there not be permanent parking at the park. All temporary, so we just have to go back.
Yeah, and is that a good, I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing for this hearing? Like, is it, is he looking for more on-site parking? Cause that, and there's not a lot of space.
There was no indication of
Okay.
that, the only indication was you need a plan, it needs to be codified,
Okay.
so. What is,
What else?
what is the whole plan?
Let's see, sorry,
He is the kayak ride.
Of the concession?
yeah, sorry, I have to show. It's too close. Site. Hill City Signature meeting in Burns, okay, hold on, sorry, there's a lot here. I don't know, I'm
Corey thinks
kind of
it's
lost in
storage
this
for the
detail.
kayak.
I'm not saying, I'm sure Corey
Yeah.
knows, I just,
Okay.
but the big.
All addressable, the good news is it was all addressable stuff, there's nothing that came out of that we were like, oh, that's just, it's all addressed.
And the dock, it was more about the width of the lane.
Oh.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it's the 10.
Too narrow.
We have to show that 10 feet width is the minimum necessary, which is it is.
So in terms, okay, here's my thought on this, here's my concern. In terms of the appeal. I mean, there's a couple ways, I guess, that this will be addressed, right, by the city. And does the appeal change anything about the target dates? Because what I'm worried about is
Yes.
I don't think our city has enough money for what we're gonna need for sound transit, the whole sound transit thing and the park at the same time. And I think they're gonna collide. And I'm really I'm just a person, you know, I'm concerned that we're gonna get this collision. And the park is gonna be secondary because sound transit's gonna get the money.
I don't follow
What-
that.
We don't, Sound Transit's project is Sound Transit's.
But doesn't Lake Forest Park have to be involved in anything regarding funding, any money?
No,
Like, we're all individually involved in.
it's your license tabs.
Yeah,
You paid for it when you were in your
that's-
car.
That's it.
so if,
City
so
doesn't do
this,
this.
okay, but, all right, so,
Right? I think,
That's
I
right.
understand.
If anything, we'll,
so is that so we're gonna get. Increases in taxes or whatever, license tabs, whatever. So there's not gonna be any cross,
That sound transit project was funded by a vote we all did 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
right?
It's why people in Snohomish, King and Pierce County pay over $1,000 typically to renew their car tabs. Almost all of that is sound transit fees to build this project as well as the trains that we built.
are you
So
thinking about the roundabout?
No.
that project we do pay for.
I
That's fully
really
funded.
hope the roundabout, the one on 40th. Is that the one you're talking about?
Ballinger at 40th.
Yeah, Ballinger and
Yeah.
40th.
That one's
the
moving
death-
forward, that's about to start.
The
death
death trap.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope we get around. I don't even like roundabouts, but man, I am totally. What is the
That one will start to be built this summer.
really cool?
Yeah, we're waiting for WASDOT to finish the sewer installation under 35th. Part of the project, but we're waiting for that culvert project to be complete. Once it's complete, we will then have a date for when we're gonna start on.
Well, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got a lot of
The park
information.
opening is likely to be delayed here. Summer.
The park opening, that's what yeah, okay. So that's what we needed to,
We're fully funded, and
Yeah.
as long as our funding partners will allow us to be delayed, we should not lose.
Yeah,
Like, everyone's supportive, all of our funding partners are supportive of this project. So. The money's there. As long as things don't go up too crazy.
yeah.
is there a identified gap though? Isn't there a $2.5 million gap? We're fully funded? Okay, here, look at this. This is what I found. This is what and I'm not sure I understand all the kudos, but. You guys are much more,
Yeah, that's the 2 million from JFL and Stanwell.
Yeah. We got an earmark from Congress that filled that gap that you see in that 530.
okay,
So like we might have a 500K.
because that was October of 25.
Yeah, we might have a 500K gap, but I think through fundraising and cost, administration.
Cool. Okay, so that's what I knew, that we did have the hearing commissioner had some issues about the plan that was submitted, and hopefully we can get all that addressed and. Yeah. Cool.
The neighbor already filed an appeal to the Fish and Wildlife permits and they denied that, so.
Oh, when was that? When did they deny the?
I think that there has to still be possibly a formal hearing. I'm not exactly sure if they'll follow through with that. But that took place last week, 2 weeks ago. Maybe longer.
Cool. So they were denied, their appeal was denied, huh? Yeah. Yeah, they're not happy. So I can understand. Okay, cool. Oh, so the pictures, so are we gonna set
yeah.
a different meeting for the pictures for?
Yes, unless, okay. I know that we just moved these meetings to Thursday. Thursdays seem to be a little harder. Do we want to move it back to Tuesdays and just 4 PM work?
think so.
Did you say Tuesday?
Tuesdays, that better?
And Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And the first Tuesday,
Whichever Tuesday you guys want,
not
besides
the second or the fourth.
So,
Please.
Yeah. I'm gonna do. My schedule varies too much.
Our first Tuesday?
yeah,
Now?
Yeah.
All right, let's try that.
Okay. So,
So
How's that
next
for you,
month,
Matt?
is first Tuesday or
We'll make it work one way or another. Tuesday's likely
So
to be on my
June-
phone more often than. in
June
person,
2,
But that's okay.
is that what we're saying, Tuesday, June 2?
Yep.
I won't be here. I'm out of town. I'm out of town. I'm working in California, so
well,
that didn't work.
well, let's possibly move it back, our normal meetings back to Tuesday. The second Tuesdays of the month,
Second Tuesday.
or no, the first Tuesdays of
First
the month.
Tuesday. But can we do a separate meeting for the pictures?
Yes,
We were
yes.
gonna do that.
We're still
because
gonna
I wanted
schedule a
that.
separate meeting to
Separate.
all do the pictures.
As I found a lot of pictures that I sent to, I didn't find them. My surrogate family found them,
Oh, wow.
and they are fantastic
Oh,
pictures from the 30s. Right up at the lake, and it even says on one of the pictures, Lake Forest.
Wow.
They used to call Lake Forest Park back when it was first established Lake Forest. It was always Lake Forest Park, but people shortened it, and it says right on there, Lake Forest on one of the pictures. And there are some great, I mean, I sent them to Corey, I thought they were.
I'm excited to hear more about all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know much if I can tell you, I mean, this is, just family. Not even my family, just my kind of surrogate family and there's pictures of my surrogate dad when he was like 4 years old. He died at 99 last year.
Wow.
So he was 4. And he used to say, yeah, we used to come up here for vacation.
Yeah.
This was vacation land up here.
Right, that's how they developed.
Yeah.
Reschedule.
So, and there's great, some great photos. I was really excited.
So here my
Okay.
husband's.
Would you guys rather keep it
was
on
the
there?
development. We are, no.
Oh, God, well, wait till nothing. So when should we, when, I gotta leave in a few minutes, when are we gonna do the picture in party?
When would you guys like to?
Well. I mean, there's no rush, because the park is not gonna be built for.
But I would like to continue this, so we can continue conversation.
Momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
You guys wanna meet in May or June for this?
Either one. And Wednesdays are not good for me.
We could even meet on a Friday for this too.
Sure.
If, depending on.
What do you got? What do you guys, what are you thinking?
When we look at the week of the 18th,
Sure. So the 22nd.
which is any day.
Oh,
Oh wait, I'm out of office.
Which day, 22?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like Monday, the 18th, 19th, 20th,
I
or
can't.
21st.
I can't do the 20th.
I
I
can't.
can do the 21st,
I can't
Thursday.
do the 19th.
What about Thursday, the 21st? Does that work?
Later in the day? Like,
Whenever,
That works for me.
yep, likewise.
Okay.
21st of
at 4?
May.
Can we do 4?
Yeah.
Okay, picture party, LFP.
Yeah, of course, perfect, right after I.
Great.
I have to.
You gotta run?
Well, I gotta
Well, I
get.
think we're
Are we
pretty much
pretty
done.
done?
Unless there's anything, like, we have the other field
Any
on our
other?
agenda, which
Yeah.
sometimes gets filled pretty quickly. Pretty full, in fact, but this one, I don't know, is there anything else?
Well, if,
Other?
let me jump here quickly into other, I would like to. Just throw this out here, it would be really nice to have the park board come over and if not have a meeting, at least have a get together at Blue Heron. So we could walk through and I can tell you what we're doing, what we've done, what we plan on doing. That sounds like something people would be interested in getting together.
We do that in at the June meeting? That's part of it? Walk over?
Only Amy cannot be here, correct?
June
Second.
2nd, yeah, no, I'm out of time,
Okay.
sorry. Sorry.
Okay. Well, not so then.
Time, so he knows exactly. Right?
But yeah, I don't.
Well,
Thanks,
maybe we
everybody.
don't do it on that particular day, we'll figure out.
See you.
Yeah, good. idea.
May 21st. Bye.
Okay,
Bye,
all right.
guys,
Good night.
thank you.
Yeah, no, I like that. How's it going over there?
It's amazing.
Coming, it's coming.
She cracks a whip though, it's so terrible.
The worst.
Yep, I'm working on contract for King Tide Parks. Rod's money, so that we'll be getting that hopefully solidified by in June.
Great.
Great.
Really want to avoid using any of that money for the black book this.
Yeah.
That stuff, I was really surprised. I'm not that familiar with Black Focus and I don't spend a lot of time in that area where they're primarily growing. I was stunned to see the size of this.
Those thorns. Quite impressive.
And then we walked across the path, right, right by the bridge. And back in the middle of other stuff, there's more.
Oh, geez,
Yeah, it's,
that's,
it's
these
really.
things are amazing.
Yeah.
In not a good way.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know much about them either, except I hear terrible horticultural stories.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad the public works team is responsive to that.
Oh, great.
And moving forward with that, it's great.
Yeah, I helped remove them the first time. And we did not treat them, we came back with a vengeance, and we
Yeah,
did
they're
treat
bad.
them. And now the last is. Come up since, it was probably 7 years ago.
Is there a protocol?
Yes.
They have to be treated,
And it-
injected, with
yeah.
Okay,
something.
and the city has to hire somebody to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and an appropriate arborist who's licensed to do it.
Gotcha. I remember when they were bigger, I got snagged a couple of times next to them, so yeah, they're terrible. Jesus.
Dangerous. And they're so invasive and they're unhealthy to be around other the environment around healthy trees is at risk with them, so there's nothing good.
Are they common to this area or were they brought in?
You know, I'm not sure. I know they're invasive, but if they weren't, they would probably, you know, if they were native, they wouldn't be invasive. So
I got you.
I'm figuring they're not. Just, you know.
Well, I feel like we are done with the meeting agenda.
We're done with the
Is
meeting.
that accurate? Okay, I'm going to call the meeting
On the 20th.
over.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
right.
Now we can chit chat.
Okay.